Hello, my name is Kit Cabell, one of the co-founders of Veracity In Defiance, and I'm here with the Bernie Sanders delegate. Can you please introduce yourself, sir?
Hello, my name is Michael Grom, and I'm representing the 15th Congressional District from Columbus, Ohio.
Now, Mike, what drew you into the Bernie Sanders campaign?
That's a good story. I was actually in the middle of writing out a little formula to figure out my fantasy football points. I was going to do it for a living professionally, and I was listening to Free Speech TV, and I heard Bernie Sanders speak, and I didn't know who he was. And I stopped and listened. I said, wow, man, that guy needs to run for president. And a couple days later, I heard he was running for president. And the first time I ever said the word Bernie Sanders is when I picked up a phone and I called this t-shirt place and I said, can you make me a shirt that says, vote for Bernie Sanders? And he goes, what do you want it to look like? I said, I don't care, just make it look political. I sold about 20,000 shirts later and helped funded all the grassroots in Central Ohio. I put a couple Bernie planes up in the sky, said vote for Bernie Sanders. Done some documentaries, and Inner City Meets Bernie Sanders, and I've done some commercials on black radio stations, some other things too, but to say it was inspirational is an understatement.
So, what made him stand out to you against the other Democratic candidates that were on the Democratic platform early on, and also more or less what makes him stand out against Hillary Clinton?
Well, the first thing I saw in him was he was talking about real issues that affect people, the inequality of wealth. That's something that nobody ever talks about, and that's a big factor. It's happening on American society, and the complete evaporation of the middle class is eventually going to lead to, ultimately the collapse of the economic system if we keep going the way that we are. America is only as strong as the middle class, and our economy has proven that when the middle class is functioning at its highest point, it benefits all sectors of society.
Now, nationwide, unemployment and underemployment is still the same. In fact, there are some reports where it's worse, and that people are still struggling for jobs. Some people are doing not only one job, but 2 jobs or 3 jobs just to take care of their family. And you got both parents working 1 or 2 jobs. As someone who's been following along with this campaign, do you think the Democratic establishment really understands what the average citizen is going through?
Oh, absolutely not. There's a big difference. The biggest difference between the Bernie Sanders delegates and their supporters from the rest of the DNC, the Hillary people, is one thing. It's the tax bracket. It's very evident. They have more money, and they're nothing more than just the Republican Party, but just a little better social values. It's clearly, even when I was running to be a delegate, I could tell by how when they were walking down the hall if they're a Bernie person or a Hillary person, that early in the campaign.
And what was the big difference? Just the way they walked, or the way they wore, what kind of clothes they wore?
The clothes they wore, how they walked, just how they carried themselves. It just had more jewelry on. The cars they drove. When Hillary came in town in Columbus, Ohio, and we protested her arrival, all the cars that were coming in were new cars, Lexus, BMWs, Porsches. It was blowing our mind. There was no beater car or average car that went through the parking lot. That was a real eye-opener for a lot of people in our group.
While you were working in Ohio, did you notice any kind of open hostility from the Clinton campaign or from the DNC in general?
Oh my gosh. That's a personal subject to me because I'm an administrator for several of the grassroots organizations in Ohio. And my daily battle with the Hellbots invading our face groups was almost overwhelming at times. It was to the point where I chastised the other administrators not to allow anybody into the group and just let me focus on who we allowed in the group. Because what was happening was the Hillary bots were coming into our groups, and at the moment this was happening in all Facebook groups, Bernie Sanders Facebook groups. The moments they would have a major event, they would drop child pornography into our groups. This happened to our group. Bestiality pornography. Then they would go and report it to Facebook. And Facebook would shut down our site for 2 or 3 days. Enough, we'd miss events. This is going on and on, over and over again.
Now, obviously, that does hurt you. Do you feel that there's a huge division within the Democratic Party to where Bernie Sanders supporters are not going to help out Hillary Clinton?
Oh yeah, her platform and Bernie's platform are night and day. You know, she had to cross over to everything that, you know, he represented. She just said she wanted to do that. She's never even addressed any of those issues. Tell me one policy talking point that gets you excited to vote for Hillary out there, please.
Now, you mentioned obviously the Hillbots were invading the Facebook page. Did you have any problems with any other political parties, like let's say for Trump supporters, or were most of your problems mostly coming from Hillary Clinton?
The Trump supporters, they're not there. I don't say that they're not really in the. They weren't that organized. They weren't. I mean, you can tell the Trump bots when they come in. I hate to say this, but their spelling, their grammar was always completely off, and they just basically, you know, they make off the wall comments. They didn't do anything that was, you know, it was like Trump knows what's best for America. You know what? They weren't doing things to deliberately try to shut down the site. I mean, you get a couple of them, but they're mostly not even interested, you know, in what Bernie has to say, because it's you know, it was Bernie and Hillary. There was no need for them to go after Bernie because Hillary was still in the lead. So there was very little, if any. You know, occasionally you get some Trump supporters that would hit pages that you put out on your personal, but not so much invading the groups.
Now, you've done a lot for Bernie Sanders in Ohio, being an organizer, being an admin for the Facebook group. What was it that made you stand out to become a Bernie Sanders delegate? What was the process? Like, how did you know when you were going to be selected?
I went to a meeting one day just because it was a Bernie Sanders meeting, and it happened to be a delegation meeting. And Kevin Keith, the guy who's the national delegate organizer, who knew of what I was doing, kind of pointed out and made me an example, and then I felt obligated to run after that, so I did, and here I am.
Now, when Bernie Sanders, when the emails in regards to Bernie Sanders were released saying that the DNC was working in conjunction with Hillary Clinton, how did that make you feel after all these months where Sanders volunteers and people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders were saying the system is rigged, we can't vote, there's rigging machines, I've been purged from the voting list? How does that make you feel after hearing this, that the connection between the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign was actually 100% factual?
It was kind of bittersweet because it was something that we knew all along, and we were just waiting for vindication. And when it finally happened, there was some kind of glimmer of hope that that the superdelegates would change their mind based on the overwhelming evidence, and that they would find that, you know, that she is vulnerable, and that the election rigging is not putting, and the voter suppression is not putting the best candidate forward. Hillary's losing 4 points to 6 points just today, and yesterday for that matter, before, you know, and Bernie's ahead by 10. So it was kind of hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, it was nice that the truth got out there. It'd be nice if there'd be more exposure about the Diebold voting machines and the exit polls and the reality of all of it, because that right there is the source of the demise of our democracy. If we're not able to stand up and have our voices heard, then they'll basically be able to control everything else in our lives, any values, any issues that we want to stand up for.
Now, how do you feel about the roll call vote? Do you think the superdelegates made a disastrous gamble in picking Hillary Clinton? Do you think they had the foresight to realize that she's losing in some of these pollings? And even Nate Silver came out indicating that, yes, Donald Trump can beat her. How do you feel about yesterday's roll call vote? And do you think that the superdelegates made a mistake?
Oh, absolutely. Now, you can go to any of the YouTube videos where I was screaming at the top of my lungs, you guys elected Trump, you guys elected Trump.
Whereas the media, the corporate media, and the DNC, they're constantly saying to Sanders supporters, well, if you're not going to vote for Hillary, you're voting for Trump, or you're going to help vote for Trump. How does that make you feel? Because it seems like the Democratic Party and the media is trying to guilt trip Sanders supporters into making them think that they're basically voting for Trump.
Yeah, that their main attack point to get you to vote for Hillary is fear. They're fear mongering, just like the Republicans. They don't have the issues to go on it, and they can say that all they want. First of all, they say the burn or bust movement's not that big, so how can we have an effect if, first of all, it's not that big? And then I lost my train of thought. So.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. Well, the question was just like, how do you feel about the fact that the delegates chose Hillary Clinton? I mean, just how the DNC is basically guilt tripping people into voting for voting Hillary Clinton because I've seen a few news reports where the media is asking Bernie Sanders supporters, volunteers, and delegates, well, if you're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton, you're basically voting for Trump.
Yeah, and see, that's completely false because the polls are indicating that she is losing to Trump. She has the lowest ratings of any politician in history. The only person that has the lower is Trump, and he's not a politician, so there's a little asterisk by it. But he beats her in trustability, as far as someone you trust. So the Bernie movement, I mean, that was their mistake. They put the candidate up that they shouldn't have. It's quite obvious. Bernie was a much more electable candidate.
Do you believe that Bernie Sanders made a mistake, at least endorsing Hillary Clinton during his speech, I believe 2 days ago?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it kills me that Bernie did not stand up for the people in that regards with the overmounting evidence of voter suppression and election fraud. I mean, that's something that hurts. And it changed my view of him greatly, to tell you the truth. He didn't stand up for the people when something was robbed from us. And I kind of look at, I don't know how much he was really interested in being the president. I think he was more of creating a movement than actually being the president.
As Bernie Sanders delegate, what concerns you? Because we know what's wrong with the Trump administration. Right off the bat, we all know what's wrong with the Trump administration. But what concerns you about a Clinton administration? Because no one talks about who Hillary Clinton is and what her administration will do. What frightens you? What concerns you? What keeps you up at night about a potential Clinton administration if she were able to beat Donald Trump?
Let's look at the facts first of all. Yeah, what does Trump threaten, or what's his scary moments? Well, he's going to build a wall and he's going to exploit all the Muslims out. Well, what has Hillary done? Well, Hillary, at every opportunity that she has to invade a country, she has. Iraq, Libya, Syria. She's also sold the most arms of any administrator in the history, Secretary of State in the history of the United States government. I mean, she sold more arms than both Bush administrations combined over. Okay, and the fact that she's given so many speeches, which are AKA bribes, that she is indebted to the people, to the banks, that she will have to go what they have to say. Who are you going to listen to? Someone that gives you $100,000 or $10?
And if you had a chance to speak to the superdelegates and the Democratic establishment, as well as the heads of the corporate media, what would you say to them directly?
You guys elected Trump.
And last question, what do you want to tell to all the Bernie Sanders supporters, volunteers, and delegates pushing forward? Because obviously this general election isn't over. It's between Trump and Clinton. Gary Johnson is polling at 13%. Jill Stein is polling at 8% right now. What do you have to say to all those potential volunteers and supporters and delegates who, obviously don't want to vote for Clinton or Trump? Do you think they'll go to third party? And what's your overall message you want to say to all of them?
I would suggest voting in what you believe in, not what you fear, and then stay active. This is a great awakening, and the knowledge is power. And I highly encourage everyone to watch Free Speech TV. It's one of the best news programs out there.
All right, this is Kid Cabello, one of the co-founders of Veracity In Defiance, talking to Bernie Sanders delegate. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please follow us on Veracity In Defiance on our YouTube, Facebook page, and Twitter accounts. We're going to be covering this DNC convention. We're going to be talking to more Bernie Sanders delegates very soon.